With jumps on roses and whiskers on kittens, brought copper kettles and wool mittens, brought paper packages tied up with strings. These are a few of my favorite things. Cream-colored ponies and crisp apple strudels, doorbells and sleigh bells with schnitzel and noodles, monkeys that fly with the moon on their wings. These are a few of my favorite things. Girls in white dresses with blue satin sashes, snowflakes that stay on my nose and eyelashes, silver white winters that melt into spring. These are a few of my favorite things. When the dog bites, when the bee stings, when I'm feeling sad, I simply remember my favorite things, and then I don't feel so bad. When the bee stings, when I'm feeling sad, I simply remember my favorite things, and then I don't feel so bad.
So bad, right? I feel good because it's not about the thing, it's about the feeling that the thing creates within us and the memories that we hold, and we can vibrate that on a cellular level. So let's take that into a time of prayer. Holy Heart of the universe, may we come into this time and space with an open heart and an open mind. We are grateful for the sunshine that warms our faces, the laughter that fills our souls, and the beauty of this day. We are grateful for this community that offers kindness and understanding, for the gentle breezes that caress our skin, and for songs that lift our spirit. We affirm our own inner strength, our capacity for joy, and our ability to embrace life's abundance. And so it is.
Each and every one of us has a story to unfold. The journey changes for us as we learn and grow. Its teachings have begun and now more and more as they are told, hearing from each other's tales that ebb and flow. So will we heed the timeless wisdom we amassed from all creatures that have come and gone before? Shall we be destined to fix patterns of the past? And shall we free ourselves at last, feel the changing of the seasons with all the wild new colors that it brings? Let's leave behind the winter reasons and choose to come together as we sing on the first day of spring. 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 No weapon shall be needed in this battle to be won. By fire met with fire to resolve. Only love can weave our different pieces into one, and a desire to aspire to the call. We're all on different paths from different places, different creeds from different races, different faces with different names, but joy that set us all the same. Shall we be destined to fix patterns of the past? Will we free ourselves at last, feel the changing of the seasons with all the wild new colors that it brings? Let's leave behind the winter reasons and choose to come together as we sing on the first day
musical, the first day of spring. And everyone was waking up, right? Everyone was waking up. All the bugs and the caterpillars and the bears and the bees, and they were all waking up. And something happened on that first day, though. Something happened that disrupted the forest. And that is that the bears were found to be what the queen bee determined was stealing the bee's honey. Yeah, oh,
That was a pain.
Papa Bear stealing the bear's honey. And so there was this tension that happened in the forest because, no one knew for sure what was going on. I mean, the queen bee looked at it and said the bears were stealing the honey, and she had her bees, worker bees with her, and they were all supporting her, But the bears were like, nah, something else was happening here. That's not the whole story. And so the deer, with his wisdom, led the discussion of the forest creatures about what really happened to try to understand what happened in the forest. And they were hearing different stories. Like I said, the queen bee was sure that the bears were stealing the honey, and that was it, and they shouldn't be stealing the honey because after all, it was their honey. They made it, it was theirs. But the bears were like, listen, I was hungry. I just woke up from all this sleep that I had. The honey was right there. I didn't know I couldn't have any. And besides, something bit me right on my butt. Like something hurt me. And I don't deserve to be hurt. Maybe I shouldn't have been eating the honey, but I didn't deserve to be hurt. And there was this whole, everybody was weighing in. The butterflies were weighing in, and the ugly bugs were weighing in. They were the cutest. The spider, Tim was a spider. Yeah. They were singing about stuff. I mean, they were all weighing in. And the deer was like, got confused. Like, how do I make this all good? In fact, he thought about just retiring. Because he's like, I don't know if I can do this, right? Yeah. Right? Where'd he get done? He's like, I don't know. Maybe I should just give this up. Well, eventually, with all this tension in the air, the queen came forward and she said, listen, I haven't been truthful. I haven't been truthful. It took a lot for the queen to do that because after all, she is the queen, right? She came forward. She's a person of authority, right? She's a person of authority, and she came forward and she said, listen, I haven't been telling you the whole truth. The whole truth is I was so mad about the bears stealing the honey that I asked one of my worker bees to sting you to get you off. And she said, you know what? I'm sorry I did that. I'm sorry I did that, and I promise to do better. But I know that the punishment for putting all this tension into the forest is to be banished. That we'll have to leave. And if that's your judgment, then I will take that punishment. Well, everybody was looking around saying, is that what we really want to do? Do we want to do what those humans do and just have cancel culture in the forest? Like, do we just want to make them leave? Like, that just doesn't seem right. That doesn't seem right. And if the bees leave, what will happen to the forest? Like, okay, some more bees might come, but we like these bees. We know them. We like them. So they decided to forgive. They decided to forgive the queen bee. And they were all there together because they decided really what the song says and the lyrics say is to fix the patterns of the past, to not buy into what we've always done and to fix those patterns. And the pattern was judgment and punishment. That was the pattern previous to that, but they didn't have to decide to do that. They didn't have to decide to do that. They decided on a different pattern. They decided on, the queen bee started by saying, I'm sorry, and I'll do better. She started with humility, the pattern of humility. And the rest of the forest decided on the pattern of forgiveness, because they all realized that together was better. that together was better, that separating from each other is not the way that we grow. We grow by acknowledging our mistakes, and we grow by forgiving others for theirs. Right? It's a classic story, but don't we need to be reminded of that? I think so. It's not just about the forest creatures, right? It's about us, how we grow. The lyrics also talk about fighting fire with fire. What happens when we fight fire with fire? More fire, right? More fire, burning down the forest. We've had some of that happening around here, haven't we? Burning down the forest. More fire with fire, that's what it results in. So, and it was so cool because after the tension was relieved, guess what happened? Da, 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 da. The caterpillar became the butterfly! Right there, in front of us all! In front of us all! And there was joy, wasn't there? There was joy, and we were dancing around, and those of us in the audience, first we were laughing, and then we were crying, and then we were crying some more, and then we were laughing some more, and then we were crying again, because it was so beautiful what happens. You know, when we shift out of those patterns, we shift into joy. We shift into joy. We realize that our connections bring us joy, that we're better together. Yeah? So Kim has a quote that she wants to share right here that speaks to this, yeah? Come on up here, Kim.
Yay!
Fearless leader. Right here. So, no jar card. We have the jar up here. You know, you always are welcome to share your favorite quote. Today, Kim's going to share a favorite quote that she has.
Focusing on healing can create a pressure that something is wrong with us. Let's focus on connection. Connection with our body, our mind, our hearts, our environment, all the amazing people around us. Healing is a beautiful side effect of connection.
See? See how that works, right? And out of connection comes joy. Out of connection comes joy. And we're going to have an experience of that right now with their third selection. Wasn't that fun? Oh my God, how could you not have fun? Oh. Hey, you know who wrote that song? I don't know, some of you might know. But this song was written in 1990. Way before you were born. You were one. 97. Okay. So in 1990, this band called Rusted Root. Yeah, this band called Rusted Root. And they were, their studio, the band was located in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So that's in my neck of the woods. And there were 7 members of the band at that time. 7 members, five men and 2 women. And the guy who wrote these lyrics, his name was Michael Glabicki. That's a Pittsburgh name, right? Yeah, Glabicki. That's why I can pronounce it, because I'm from there. The Southerners would be like, no. But anyway, he says this about this song. He said all 7 members wrote the lyrics together. They all have credentials for this song. But he says this. He said, I remember just walking right into our studio during that day. I remember it being very sunny. We had these big windows in this warehouse and the sun was just shining in. As soon as I walked in, I picked up the guitar and I just started writing it, this song. It was just a very, very happy feeling. You could feel that there was a lot of happiness in the room. Whether that was just an extension of me or something else in there that was very happy, you just felt it. Just like a super happy feeling. Well, yeah. I mean, it's still, this many years later, 1990, it's still a super happy feeling, isn't it? Yeah. Like, that's what it's about. That's what it's about. So, yeah. Oh, we'll wait.
Good morning.
That's all right. But I was reminded of the quote that I shared last week about this. It says, it's possible to decrease the suffering in the world by adding to the joy. Like, that's what it is. Like, we don't have to wait for all the stuff out here to be okay. Now, okay, now I can be happy. No, we can be happy by adding to it, by recognizing what Michael did was when he walked into this space, that's what he noticed, and that's what he took off from. That's the way he lived those next moments in his life. And that's the way the band did it as well, right? Because there is a lot of sadness in the world, and there is a lot of hard things in the world, but the way we can balance that sadness is with joy. It's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing for us to be happy and to be dancing like this when we know that there's difficulties right here in Wilmington, let alone the world.
Yes.
Right? So we contribute to balancing that sadness by feeling joy, by deciding to feel joy, by deciding to get up out of there and clap or sing or dance. That's what it's about. The other thing that's in these lyrics that I focused on was this idea that we will run and we will crawl. We will run and we will crawl. In other words, we're not stopping. Because there's all these words between running and crawling too. There's gliding and dancing and tripping and limping and there's all sorts of ways. But what this song calls us to do is just keep moving. Just keep moving. We don't have to make a leap. Leap is one too. We can leap, but we can also stumble. But we're moving. We're moving. We're moving forward. We're moving a little bit. We're not stuck. Okay? And I think that's what this is calling for too, is to not get stuck in there. To not get stuck. And to reach out our hand, which means really we're not here alone either. Even if we're running and we're happy and we're free, grab onto a hand. I'm reaching out my hand, my little hand. Because it's just this hand in this big world, but it's mine and it makes a difference. Yeah? Yeah? Right? That's what it's about. Keep moving. And we don't have to reserve our joy for special occasions. That's what I'm thinking. We don't have to just be happy because it's my birthday or, it's Christmas morning or I got my paycheck or, right? We can be happy walking into a sunlit filled room. We can be happy on Sunday morning at Spiritual Soul Center. And then we walk out of here, and if we've set something down on our way in that was heavy, we can pick it back up. It's not going anywhere. But we can have this in the meantime, and we can elevate that vibration. Yeah. We have the ability to do that. We have the ability to do that. So some people say, well, my body doesn't move like it used to. I said, well, you can move your body. You can move your eyes. You can move your mind. You can move your heart. There's no greater movement in the world than to move your heart, to move it into empathy, to move it into caring, to move it into, caring about someone. I mean, you don't have to move your body. It's not always about move your body. Reaching out your hand can be reaching out your hand in your mind, reaching towards something. Some of us when we get older and some of us when we're younger even, we can't move like everybody else can. This song is still for us. This song is still for us because we can move those other pieces of us. We can move our mouth, we can smile. We can move our eyes. We can move our heart and we can move our mind. That's what I believe. So let's just take a minute, if you would, and just take a deep breath and close your eyes. And let me rest, because here's the other thing about movement. It's okay to rest, because out of rest comes the next greatest movement, because we can't stay moving all the time. And I can move with joy when I rest first. When I take a breath. Because I believe, and I'm inviting you to consider, that it is God, it is the cosmic pulse of the universe that breathes me, that lives me. That's what's happening. I don't think about breath in, breath out all the time, and the universe lives me. God lives me, breathes me. And when I rest in that, I can come out and move in joy. So with your eyes closed, remember these messages from today, because the music today is the message. When I remember my favorite things, I remember that I can see good and feel good, and it makes a difference in me. When I decide to break the patterns of the past, the patterns of punishment and judgment, I can do that by saying, I'm sorry. I'll do better. By practicing humility. And when the shoe is on the other foot, to practice forgiveness as well. And lastly, to not get stuck, to keep moving my body, to keep moving my mind, to keep moving my heart. It's how to be happy, to reach out my little hand. So deep breath in and out. And amen. Amen. So I think, and I've just decided, that the perfect way to round this message out is to send me on my way. Send me on my way. Send me on my way. Send me on my way.
On my way.
Send me on my way. Come on, let's sing it. Send me on my way.
I would like to reach out my hand.